Alright, this lesson is on how birds eat and also their whole digestive system. So birds definitely eat fast, for sure, and it takes about 45 minutes for their meal to be completely digested and then out of their body. They do not chew, so there's no chewing, because if you remember, there's no teeth. But they do have an organ called the crop. And this crop is actually at the base of the esophagus. And the responsibility of the crop is to store and moisten the food. Okay, so it kind of sits there for a little bit. And then there's also an area called the gizzard. And the gizzard is a special feature in our digestive system that's kind of cool. It actually has like small stones in it. So it's kind of like a little rock tumbler. And what it'll do is once the food gets into the gizzard, it'll like swish it around with the stones to further break down the food, like physically break down the food. And you may know that parents of baby birds regurgitate the food for the babies, okay? And one of the reasons why is because the babies are not born with stones in their gizzard. So they need a little bit of help to break the food down, so the parent will kind of chew it up, not chew it up, but swallow it, allow it to sit in the crop for a little bit, and then allow the gizzard to kind of do its work, and then they'll regurgitate it back out for the baby. And again, it's because they don't have these features all fully developed yet. Okay, so that's some simple stuff, right? So then let's go through just the anatomy, like where the food comes in and then where the waste goes out. It's pretty similar to ours. But there are some exceptions, obviously. But so first off, and in your notes, I'm going to try to, for your bird digestive system notes assignment, so this information here would go in the food and digestion part of it. And then the other part is a picture. It's called digestive system. So I'm going to try to line up my notes here the way that it should be identified on that slide. So the digestive system, and we're going to just work on, going from the anterior end of the body all the way to the posterior part. So in the picture, there's like blocks, and there's like a bird, and then it has like all these different parts, okay, on this slide, and then there's like arrows. Okay, so what I'm going to do is set up my notes here like they are on that slide. So this first part, it's actually pointing to the mouth, so that's where food goes in. The next part, sorry about that, that's my dog, is pointing to the esophagus, which is what we also have. After the esophagus is a feature, it's kind of bulbous, and it's the second box down, and that is called the crop. Remember, that's the area of their digestive system that moistens the food. Underneath that is the gizzard, and that is the area that's like the rock tumbler. Okay, so it has little rocks in there to help further physically break down the food. Okay, and then the next box down, it's actually pointing to these other organs outside of specifically the digestive system. And so it is, I want to make sure I'm doing this right. There's this one. And then there's also the little bulbous part there pointing to here. So for both of these next two boxes, just put liver and gallbladder. Okay. Okay. So the crop there, the gizzard there, and then after that is the third one down. And then after that is this long part. I think I have the gizzard in here twice. Doesn't mean that there's two gizzards, there's just one gizzard. And then this part is the intestine. Okay. And then there's little parts coming off of the intestine. They kind of like extend out. And that's the last one on the left. And those are called cecae. That actually increases the surface area for digestion. Okay. And then at the almost to the end is the large intestine. And then at the very end, which is where the anus is the cloaca. Okay? So I think that in that last box for the large intestine, if you could also put plus cloaca, because I think there's a little bit of an error there with the drawing. Okay? So let's retrace this. This is the digestive system of the bird. So it's got the mouth, which leads to the esophagus, which leads to the crop, which then leads to the gizzard. And the gizzard actually it's a two-part, these things here, it's considered a two-part stomach. Oh, and now I just remember. And the one part is the gizzard. The other part, if you could cross that out, so this would be the rock tumbler. This other part, you guys, is called the proventriculus. It's like a two-part stomach. Okay, proventriculus. Okay, so Proventriculus. Proventriculus. Okay, and then that leads to the small intestine, which then leads to the large intestine. But in the small intestine, there are these extensions, and those are called ceca, and that increases the surface area so that they can really digest and get all the nutrients they can out of food, which then leads to the cloaca, which is the anus. Okay, so that is where their waste is expelled. And that's it.